English is not the most spoken language in the Caribbean. There are many languages spoken in the Caribbean, reflecting the region's rich cultural diversity and complex history. Did you know that even though the majority islands in the Caribbean are English-speaking, English is not the most spoken language in the Caribbean? Any guesses to what the most spoken language could be? I'll give you 3 seconds to guess. Alright, time is up. If you guessed Spanish, then congratulate yourself by hitting that like button on this video. Just playing. Well, not really. Liking this video will really go a long way in supporting this channel. The official languages of the Caribbean are Spanish, English, French, and Dutch. No surprise here, given the colonial history of many of the islands. The official language of each Caribbean country is linked to the European country, whether it be France, England, etc., that last held the country or held control the longest. However, as Caribbean countries changed hands, many times in some countries the citizens may speak another language apart from the primary language. For instance, in Puerto Rico, where both Spanish and English are spoken, or the Creole languages in the English-speaking Caribbean, which in some cases is a mix of African, Indigenous, English, and a few other European languages. Speaking of Creole language, a number of Spanish, English, French, and Dutch-based Creoles are widely spoken across the region, with Haitian Creole being recognized as an official language in Haiti and Papiamento as an official language in Aruba and Curacao. So, to sum things up before we press on, there are 6 official languages across the Caribbean. However, there are about 30 other languages spoken altogether when we consider the variations of Creole spoken across the different islands. Now you may be wondering, what is Creole language? We will get into all that soon. Before doing so, let me welcome you to Caribbean Vagabond, your best bet for finding premium information on everything about the Caribbean. If you're new here and you want to join us in our exciting adventures across the Caribbean, then smack that subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our exciting videos. Alright, let's start with Spanish. Why is it the most spoken language in the Caribbean? That's because Spanish is the official language of 3 of the most populous countries in the Caribbean: Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. The introduction of Spanish to the Caribbean dates to Christopher Columbus's arrival to the region in 1492. He subsequently established the first permanent colony in the region on the island of Hispaniola, which today shared between Dominican Republic and Haiti. In other colonies established by Spain, Castilian Spanish language interacted with various indigenous languages as well as the unique cultural and historical factors of the Caribbean, giving rise to variants of Spanish now spoken within the region. Fun fact, as Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica were once Spanish colonies, there was a time when Spanish was the dominant language in these islands. In fact, the present-day capital of Trinidad and Tobago is Port of Spain. This area was called Puerto de España when the Spanish colonized the island, which translates to Port of Spain. Next up, English. English is the official language of approximately 19 Caribbean countries with a combined population of approximately 7 million. While it may not be the language with the highest number of native speakers in the Caribbean, some consider English as the unofficial language of tourism, a key industry for the Caribbean, which receives a high number of North American and British tourists. In fact, English is one of the official languages in the Dutch Caribbean territories of St. Martin and Curacao. The introduction of English in the Caribbean dates back to the start of British colonization in the region when it established its first colony in St. Kitts in 1623, with additional colonies being established in Barbados in 1627 and Nevis in 1628. However, many of the inhabitants of the English-speaking countries that make up the Caribbean actually speak English Creole on a day-to-day basis as opposed to standard British English. Though in writing and formal settings, standard British English is mainly used. Hang tight, more on Creole languages later. Now let's turn our attention to French. Following the footsteps of British, France established colonies on the islands of Guadeloupe and Martinique in the 1630s. This led to the introduction of the French language in the Caribbean. A little over a quarter of the people classified as Caribbean nationals or West Indians speak French or some form of French-based Creole. French is the official language in St. Martin, Martinique, St. Bartholomew, Guadeloupe, and Haiti. Like other European languages, each of these countries have a French-based Creole with a Haitian Creole being an official language of Haiti. Next up is the Dutch language. By now, I'm sure you can see a pattern. The introduction of Dutch in the Caribbean, like the other European languages touched on before, is due to Dutch colonial rule in the region. Like Britain and France, the first Dutch colony was established in the Caribbean in the 17th century, with early attempts at establishing a colony on the island of Tobago subsequently failing. In fact, the Netherlands made many unsuccessful attempts to colonize Tobago, which always fell to other European powers. They subsequently went on to successfully establish colonies in Aruba, Curaçao, Saba, Bonaire, Sint Eustatius, Sint Maarten, and Suriname. With the exception of Suriname, which gained independence from Netherlands in 1975, these other countries are to this day overseas territories of the Kingdom of Netherlands. While Dutch is an official language in these official territories, various Dutch-based creoles are spoken as part of everyday life and within informal settings. Alright, throughout this video we have spoken so much about various Creole languages across the Caribbean. Let's dive in and learn more. First, what is a Creole language? As you may know by now, the Caribbean has a rich and diverse history, including centuries of colonization by different European powers. Moreover, as noted by the United Nations, the Caribbean was at the core of the crime against humanity induced by the transatlantic slave trade and enslavement. Additionally, countries such as Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana received large amounts of indentured Indian laborers who were contracted as a substitute for slave labor. These factors led to the emergence of Creole languages across the Caribbean. In summary, Creole is a distinct language system that has expanded in structure and vocabulary and can be classed as a new language that arises as a result of contact between groups that share no common language. As it pertains to the Caribbean, it is a mix of languages from the English, French, Spanish, Dutch, or Portuguese colonizers, various West African languages spoken by enslaved Africans, and in the case of some countries, the languages spoken by indentured laborers contracted from India is added into the mix. Attitudes towards Creole languages in the Caribbean have often been mixed, while countries such as Aruba, Curaçao, and Haiti have made their Creole language an official language, and Jamaican patois is increasingly being embraced by the government of Jamaica. In other countries, it is seen as an inferior language. Now that we have established what a Creole language is, let's highlight two Creole languages that are also official languages of the country where it is spoken. Haitian Creole. While Haiti has two official languages, Haitian Creole and French, only a slim majority of the population speak French. However, almost everyone speaks Haitian Creole. The language is based on a mixture of French and the West African languages spoken by enslaved Africans on plantations. Haitian Creole is rooted in Haiti's fight for independence and emerged as a contact language and a form of resistance among enslaved Africans against slavery. Unlike many other Creoles found across the Caribbean, Haitian Creole is used in formal settings and in some education settings. Haitian Creole is not mutually intelligible with standard French and has its own distinctive grammar. As such, a native speaker from France in most cases would not fully understand the language. The last on the list is another Creolean language called Papiamento. Unlike Haitian Creole, Papiamento has its grounding in one of resistance. Papiamento is the official language of Aruba and Curaçao, and also has recognized language status in the special Dutch municipalities of Bonaire, Sint Eustatius, and Saba. The language is spoken by approximately 400,000 persons in the Dutch Caribbean. But here's the interesting thing about this Creole language. While these islands are Dutch, Papiamento is often credited as a Portuguese-based Creole that is heavily influenced by Spanish, Dutch, and African languages. There are also some words from English. The truth is, there are various theories about the origination of this language. Some believe that Papiamento emerged from the Portuguese Creole languages that developed in the West African coast, with enslaved persons bringing it with them as they were taken to Aruba, Bonaire, and Curaçao, also known as the ABC Islands, as part of the transatlantic slave trade. The language underwent further influence and evolution when these enslaved Africans arrived in the Caribbean. Also, given the close proximity of the ABC Islands to the South American mainland, Spanish would have had some additional impact on the language. There are other opinions that the language directly emanates from the Cape Verde Creole family, though some argue that core vocabulary and grammatical features that Papiamento shares with Cape Verdean Creole are far less than those shared with Spanish. There are tons more Creole languages to touch on, but we'll save that for part 2 of this video. Remember, our goal here is just to provide a brief overview of the languages. There are tons of great resources on YouTube if you are looking for a more in-depth analysis of the vocabulary, grammar, and phonology of Creole languages. Until next time, Vagabonds!